نحمده ونصلي على رسول الكريم ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ونشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. Respected viewers, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Today, in continuation of our program of learning Quran, we shall try to read and then understand verse number 26 to verse number 29 from chapter 2, that's Al-Baqarah. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. In the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful. Inna Allah la yastahyi. Verily Allah doesn't disdain or doesn't feel shy an yadriba mathala, to use a similitude, ma ba'udah, of a net or a mosquito, fama fawqar, even a thing lesser than that. فَأَمَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا, as for those people who have believed, فَيَعْلَمُونَ, they know it, أَنَّهُ الْحَقُّ مِنْ رَبِّهِمْ, that it is truth from the Lord. وَأَمَّا الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا, and as for those who reject or disbelieve, فَيَقُولُونَ, they say, مَاذَا أَرَادَ اللَّهُ بِهَذَا مَثَلًا, what does Allah intend by giving this small example? يُدِلُّ بِهِ كَثِيرًا, thus through it he makes many to go astray, وَيَهْدِي بِهِ كَثِيرًا, and guides many through such examples. وَمَا يُدِلُّ بِهِ, but he misleads none, إِلَّا الْفَاسِقِينَ, except who are iniquitous. الَّذِينَ, those, يَنْقُضُونَ عَهْدَ اللَّهِ, who break the promise of Allah, مِنْ بَعْدِ مِيثَاقِهِ, after ratifying them. وَيَقْطَعُونَ, and they break or cut مَا أَمَرَ اللَّهُ بِهِ أَنْ يُرْسَلَ, what Allah has asked to join. وَيُفْسِدُونَ فِي الْأَرْضِ, and spread corruption in the earth. أُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْخَاسِرُونَ, they and they alone are the losers. كَيْفَ تَكْفُرُونَ بِاللَّهِ, how can you disbelieve in Allah, or how can you deny the existence of God? وَكُنْتُمْ أَمْوَاتًا, don't you think that you were lifeless? فَأَحْيَاكُمْ, it is He who gave you life, or brought you to life. ثُمَّ يُمِيتُكُمْ, then it is He who causes you to die. ثُمَّ يُحْيِيكُمْ, then He will again bring you back to life. ثُمَّ إِلَيْهِ تُرْجَعُونَ, then unto Him is your final return. هُوَ الَّذِي, it is He, خَلَقَ لَكُمْ, who created for you, مَا فِي الْأَرْضِ, whatever is in earth, جَمِيعًا, everything. ثُمَّ اسْتَوَى إِلَى السَّمَاءِ, then He turned towards the heavens, فَسَوَّاهُنَّ, and thus He fashioned سَبْعَ سَمَاوَاتٍ, the 7 heavens. وَهُوَ بِكُلِّ شَيْءٍ عَلِيمٌ, so He has the knowledge of everything. صدق الله العظيم. This is the meaning of these verses from Al-Baqarah, chapter number 2 of Quran, that is verse number 26 to verse 29. You know, yesterday we tried to understand certain verses starting from وَإِن كُنْتُمْ فِي رَيْبٍ مِمَّا نَزَّلْنَا عَلَى عَبْدِنَا, if you are in any kind of doubt, مِمَّا نَزَّلْنَا عَلَى عَبْدِنَا, regarding what we have revealed or sent down on our servant, that's Muhammad, peace be upon him, فَأْتُوا بِسُورَةٍ مِنْ مِثْلِهِ, then bring a chapter like it. وَادْعُوا شُهَدَاءَكُم مِّن دُونِ اللَّهِ, and call upon your helpers besides Allah. إِن كُنْتُمْ صَادِقِينَ, if you are truthful. That's Quran through a challenge, which we talked about in detail yesterday. That Quran through a challenge. Accept Quran as the word of God, because it is revealed by Allah to His messenger Muhammad, peace be upon him, and it is without any human insertion, without any alteration, in its pristine purity. It is the word of God, and so perfect guidance for humans. So people had doubts. They were raising doubts in the time of Prophet, peace be upon him, even after that. So Quran threw a challenge that if you are in any kind of doubt, still, because there is no scope for, in fact, no scope for doubt. Only arrogant person, or a person who doesn't have the intellectual level of thinking or going in depth of the meanings of the Quran, only such a person can unnecessarily, superficially raise certain doubts about the text of the Quran. So Quran says, if you are in any kind of doubt, then bring forth just a chapter like it. About a chapter, I told you, it can be the smallest chapter, like Surah Al-Kawthar, comprising just 3 verses, or chapter Al-Asr, that is in the 30th part of Quran, or a big chapter like Al-Baqarah comprising 286 verses. Then I told you, we talked about that. It is firstly about the words. Nobody can compose a chapter, even if it's so small, like any chapter, the smallest chapter of Quran. Nobody can write or compose or prepare a chapter like it. And secondly, we talked about that it is in fact the impact the Quran had, because many tried to create verses in Arabic, the language of the Quran, but they failed, utterly failed. Even if somebody would make some sort of verses in Arabic, certain sentences, and highlight it, or declare that these are words, these sentences in Arabic language, God forbid, they're comparable to Quran. But this challenge doesn't pertain only about the words or the letters or the sentences, but it also implies the impact Quran had in world history. That's incomparable. Nobody can, from the mouth or the tongue of Muhammad, peace upon him, who apparently was unlettered. He didn't attend any school, college, or any educational institution. He was not a poet, as there were many hundreds of poets in Arabia, well-renowned poets. He was not a literate person in ordinary sense of the term, but still he presents some verses or some sentences or revelations and declares that these are not my words. These are words of Allah which are being inspired or revealed to me, and I have been asked to convey to you, and so am I conveying in their pristine purity. Then we see the impact of the words. That's also part of this challenge. That if you are in any kind of doubt, present a chapter or few verses, like, because we find in Quran, Kul fatu bi hadithin misli. If you fail to present a chapter like Quran, then just bi hadithin, that means just a talk or a sentence or half a sentence like Quran, you couldn't do it. It also implies the impact it had. The course, as explained by a world-renowned historian of 20th century, who is considered to be the legend of his own time, as well as world history is concerned. I mean, Arnold Toynbee, in his world history, talking about Quran and Muhammad, peace upon him, he says that its advent changed the course of human history. That impact of the words or the message of Quran was that it changed the course of human history. So this is a challenge. Like we cite an example. He said, Arnold Toynbee, what I want to emphasize here before we start reading or understanding the verses from 26 to 29 today. He says, Arnold Toynbee, in his world history, book of world history, he says, it's a very voluminous book, about the 30-volume book, highlighting all the dimensions, all the periods of world history, right from prehistorical times to modern times. Talking about Quran and Muhammad, peace upon him, Islam, he says that its advent changed the course of human history. That's the advent of Quran. How? He gives an example. He says at the time of the revelation of Quran, and at the advent of the messengership of Prophet Muhammad, peace upon him, all over the world, everything was worshipped. People used to worship sun, considered to be a great god. Then people used to worship moon, the stars, the planets. Even Earth was worshipped, taken as a god. What Arnold Toynbee emphasizes, it is a historical shock how Quran changed the world history. The Quran didn't dethrone all these false deities, that they are not gods. Quran didn't say that these sun and moon and stars and planets are not gods, but he said these are servants of man. They have been made to act as subservient to man. So he says, within a twinkling of an eye, or just within a few days or years, what happened? That the things or objects which were considered to be divine and gods became servants of God. Then he quotes a verse from Quran. That's what is the impact. That is the real part of the challenge. That if you doubt that whether Quran is the word of God, present chapter like it, just present few sentences like it. He quotes a verse from Quran. وَمِنْ آيَاتِهِ اللَّيْلُ وَالنَّهَارُ وَالشَّمْسُ وَالْقَمَرُ لا تسجدوا للشمس والقمر واسجدوا لله الذي خلقهن إن كنتم إياه تعبدون. That sun and the moon and stars, they are the signs of Allah. They have been created by God, Allah the Almighty. So Quran says, don't worship sun, nor should you worship moon. Wasjudu lillah, but worship Allah, alladhi khalaqana, who has created them all. In kuntum iyyahu ta'budun, if you really intend to worship Him alone, the real creator. Then quoting other verses like, Sakhara lakum ma fis samawati wal ard. It is Allah the Almighty who made subservient to you, O human beings, what is in the heavens and what is in earth. That everything other than yourself, whether sun, star, moons, planets, plants, animals, everything come next. You are the supreme, O man. So it is this, just a single verse changed the course of human history. So this is in fact what I wanted to emphasize, which is to be taken into consideration while talking about the challenge from the Quran, which till now, up to the 21st century, the dawn of 21st century, remains as it was 1400 years back. Okay, now coming down to today's verses, in Allah la yastahi, meaning, verily Allah doesn't disdain, or Allah doesn't feel shy, and yet there was to give or present a similitude of a net, or ba'uda means net, G-N-A-T net, or a mosquito. Ba'uda means mosquito. That Allah doesn't feel shy or doesn't disdain for using a similitude or giving an example or a parable of a mosquito. Fama fawqa, even lesser than that. Fawqa in fact means even higher, but it is in reverse form here used. That means mosquito, or even a thing which is smaller than that, or less important than that apparently. Why? Because why this mention of net or mosquito here? We see in Quran examples being given. Like we see a chapter in Quran which is named Al-Ankabut. Ankabut means a spider. Same way we find a chapter in Quran named An-Namal. Namal meaning an ant, small insect ant. Same way we find a mention in Quran of Zubab. Zubab meaning a fly, house fly. Or even we see a chapter in Quran named An-Nahal. An-Nahal meaning bee, that honeybee. So the polytheists or the opponents or enemies of Islam, who were always only to find some fault, they were only interested in finding somehow, rightly or wrongly, to find a fault in Quranic revelation or in Muhammad, God forbid, and then highlight it. And learning about this, or hearing the mention of a spider or an ant or a bee or a housefly or a mosquito, they would start just mocking at Prophet Muhammad, and saying, what kind of God you are talking about? You say God is Allahu Akbar, God is great, He is the Lord of worlds, He is sustainer of this world and all the universe around, stars, planets, galaxies and everything. And so what kind of God it is? Giving examples of small things like mosquitoes and flies and bees and spiders. If at all here to give an example or parable, he could well give an example of an elephant or a lion or a tiger or something even bigger than that. So the poor people couldn't answer, because everywhere, whenever anything talk about in Quran is pregnant with meaning, it invites human attention and then asks human beings to think and go into the depth and derive something greater, which is the intention of Quran. So Quran, by giving these small examples, only wants to convey the message that whatever you see of human beings, because Quran gives examples of the environment, whatever a human being finds around him, whether it's small or big. And so that he starts thinking about, because we know now from scientific investigations, anything smaller than an animal, and it is when we see its organization, even submicroscopic objects like viruses and bacteria, TPLOs, and all these which we can see with naked eye. When we try to understand their physiology, their morphology, it becomes the greatness of the creative power of Almighty God becomes more and more clear and manifest. Imagine a small bacteria, a unicellular organism, or sometimes even acellular organism, smaller than a cell, having perfect organization of feeding itself, reproducing itself, then binary fission or multiple fission, and like that, performing all the functions of a perfect cell or a big, large animal. So one gets astonished and see, and once we see all this and observe such objects, you really feel that this is something great. After every creation, there has to be a creator. Today we see most of the genetic studies have been done on dragonflies. And we see that their chromosome number was studied and the structure, and it gave scientists, biologists, geneticists tremendous insight into the genetic constitution of human beings. And it is on the basis of that research has been done for the last 100 years. So Quran lays the foundation of even such sciences, that you see a small fly. Well, Quran, for example, Quran gives an example of fly. It's not just example or a parable. Quran says the example of fly is being used in Quran when Quran says, "Oh people, oh infidels, oh polytheists who have made anything and everything God. Don't you think helplessness of your so-called gods? Imagine if a fly, these so-called gods cannot create a small fly. Not only that, if the fly snatches away anything from them, whether it's a small piece of sugar grain, and they devour it, your so-called gods have no power to snatch it from it." Same way, given the example of Al-Ankabut, that spider, Quran gives an example. Say, think about it. Those people who have associated partners with God are, in fact, they feel that they have created their own philosophies and their own theories on which they feel this is the solution of the world problems. Their example is like a spider, because the web of the spider is so delicate that it can be blown by blowing, it can be blown to pieces. It is the example of the theories and philosophies propounded by those who associate partners with God. They have no comparison with God and the mighty power of God, except like the web of an ordinary spider. Same way about An-Nahl, that's bee. Quran talks about in detail. See the organization, see the structure. You will find signs of Creator God. Its organization, its collectiveness, and how it collects, how it sits on different flowers. Then drinks extracts the nectar from different kinds of flowers. And after drinking the nectar, how it converts it into the best possible natural food, that is honey. Like this. So it's Quran saying, students of sciences, students of Quran, students in the real sense who want to study nature and derive big conclusions from it, the real conclusions, it is a lesson for them, a food for what we call it's food for thought for them. The Quran, when Quran says, "Inna Allah la yastahi," verily Allah doesn't disdain, Allah doesn't feel shy, an yadriba mathala ma ba'uda, to give an example of a mosquito, فَمَا فَوْقَهَا, even smaller than that. فَأَمَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا, as for those people who have faith, who think, because faithful, according to Quran, men of faith are people of faith, are those who well think, watching anything, they think, and then try to go into depth of it and derive conclusion, the best possible conclusion from it. That's whom we call today scientist, or scholar who tries to obtain the best lessons from everything. Quran says, فَأَمَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا, as for those people who know, as for those people who have faith, فَيَعْلَمُونَ, they know it because they understand it. They understand and know أَنَّهُ الْحَقُّ مِنْ رَبِّهِمْ, that this small, apparently a small example, or a parable, or a similitude is convey the true message from their Lord. They know it. They try to understand the message behind it. Why Allah the Almighty gives such small example of a small animal, or a parable of such an animal. وَأَمَّا الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا, but as for those people who disbelieve, who are not ready to listen, who are not ready to think, who are not ready to use their intellectual powers to go into the depth of anything which they observe in their environment. Those are the rejectors of faith, deliberately rejecting faith, are the disbelievers who don't think, who have no reasoning power. وَأَمَّا الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا, as for those people who disbelieve or who reject faith, فَيَقُولُونَ, they say, without thinking, without watching properly, without bothering to go into the depth of the example which is given to them, فَيَقُولُونَ, they say, مَاذَا أَرَادَ اللَّهُ بِهَذَا مَثَلًا, what Allah or God intends by giving small example of such examples. Quran says, يُدِلُّ بِهِ كَثِيرًا, this way Allah misleads many or allows many to go astray through a small example. وَيَهْدِي بِهِ كَثِيرًا, but guides many through it. He guides many through it, but Quran is categorical. وَمَا يُدِلُّ بِهِ, but Allah misleads none. Allah allows none to go astray. إِلَّا الْفَاسِقِينَ, except who are iniquitous or who are transgressors, or except those who are not ready to listen, who are not ready to think, and who are not ready to derive conclusion or lessons from such examples. Those people, Allah will not force us to the path of guidance. They are not ready to adopt the path of guidance. Okay, let them go to hell. Let them adopt the path, because they have not, it's not a curse. I'm not abusing that let them go to hell as we learn in English language. No, it's not like that. What I mean to say by saying let them go to hell, because such people have rejected the path of heaven or paradise. They are not ready to follow the straight path which leads to heaven. That means in rejecting the path of heaven, they have adopted the path of hell, which is going to lead him nowhere except total disaster and place of disappointment and place of annihilation, disgrace. In this, more so in life hereafter. That's what is the message conveyed by the word al-fasiqeen. That means Allah doesn't shy away, Allah doesn't feel shy or doesn't disdain in giving an example or a parable or a similitude of a mosquito or a gnat or a smaller thing, even that. As for those people who think, who are faithful, who think about it, they know it. They come to this conclusion. They understand that it conveys some true message from the Lord. As for those people who outrightly reject, who are not ready to listen, who don't think, who are not bothered about drawing any conclusion or lesson from such examples, they say what Allah intends, what your God intends by giving small examples. This way, Allah misleads many through it, while He guides many through it. But Quran is categorical, but He misleads none. He doesn't allow anybody to go astray through such examples, illa al-fasiqin, except those people who themselves are not ready to read, understand, and then go into the depth and derive conclusions. These are fasiqeen, what we say iniquitous, are transgressors. Allatina, who are such people? Allatina, those yankuduna ahdallahi min ba'di mithaqihi, who break the promise of Allah after ratifying them. That they are the promise breakers. What does promise make? This is the first characteristic of fasiqeen, iniquitous or transgressors. Alladhina yankuduna ahdallahi min ba'di mithaqi, those who break the promises with Allah, promise of Allah, min ba'di mithaqi, after ratifying them. What the promise is? First, God's promise with His Creator. That was to worship Him alone and not to assign partners with Him, which is ingrained in the nature or in human soul. And it also means the promises which one has to undergo with the fellow human beings, the relationship, or the obligations, or the promises parents, brothers, sisters, cousins, neighbors, fellow human beings, and rest of the world. It encompasses everything. That means these are the alladhina yankuduna ahdallahi min ba'di mithaqi, those who break the promises of Allah after ratifying them, that they are not concerned about. Neither they fulfill their obligations with God, nor are they bothered of fulfilling those covenants and promises with their fellow human beings, starting from their family and spread throughout the world with the rest of the human beings. وَيَقْطَعُونَ, and they cut مَا أَمَرَ اللَّهُ بِهِ أَن يُوصَلَ, what Allah has made ask them to join. What does that mean? Allah, because God's message leads a man to piety and righteousness. So Allah asks human beings, first those who believe in His message, to create relations based on goodwill, based on piety, based on righteousness, based on love and affection. These relations are to be maintained. The relations, as Quran says, ta'awunu alal birri wa taqwa. Join hands together with each other in good deeds and piety and righteousness. And but there are certain relations which are to be cut. That means a relationship based on vices, or abusive way, or based on godlessness, and like that. So Quran wants adherents to discard those relations and adopt the path, adopt the relations, or maintain the relations based on piety and righteousness. But what is the second characteristic of these iniquitous and transgressors is that, firstly, first characteristic is they break the promises with Allah after ratifying them, and then they cut the relations, what Allah has asked them to strengthen or to maintain. That cutting relations is the sign of a fasik, and they spread corruption in earth. Corruption or mischief, corruption and mischief means who is concerned only about his own self. He's not bothered about the rest of the world. He may cause corruption, he may cause mischief, he may cause disorder in this world. The disorder in this world starts by worshipping anything or anybody other than God. That's the basic source of corruption or mischief, and followed by misdeeds. Because once you are not worshipping God, a person falls in the trap of Satan. And Satan has nothing in this world except his agenda is nothing but to spread corruption or mistrust among humans and create havoc, lawlessness, and nudity, and everything bad which is prevalent today we find in the world. This is a third characteristic of such iniquitous and transgressors. Ulaika humul khasirun. Quran says they and they alone are the losers, because they have adopted that path which is going to lead them nowhere except where they have to lose everything, their honor, their respect, their life, everything. Then Quran says, Kaifa takfuruna billah. Oh man, oh people, how can you deny the existence of Allah the Almighty? How can? Kaifa takfuruna billah. How can you disbelieve in Allah? You have no reason to disbelieve in Allah. Wa kuntum amwata. Don't you think about your own selves, about your origin. Kuntum amwata. You were lifeless. That means think about your origin. Origin, if we start the immediate past of ourselves, that means the things from which we are created. That means a small droplet, sperm, 1/600th part of an inch, contain everything which I possess now. That's a small droplet of sperm, and then egg, fertilization of the two, and it passing through different stages in the wombs of mothers, creates a human being, a perfect human being with terrible intellect and understanding power, and then who fashions this world and creates history. They become history makers or history breakers. This is Quran says, Kaifa takfuruna billah. See about this design, about your creation. Kaifa takfuruna billah. How can you deny the existence of Allah the Almighty? Wa kuntum amwata. That you were lifeless. You were almost nothing. You were almost nothing. Wa kuntum amwata fa ahyakum. He brought you to life, passing through different stages, unbelievable, unimaginable sequence of events, right from conception to the delivery of a child. See the face in a perfect place, in the most safe place, how he passed through one stage to another till he is born like a perfect human being with all the faculties and facilities provided to him by Allah the Almighty. Go on to think about it. Isn't it? Doesn't this plan of creation, which is exhibited in this world every second, every moment, everywhere in any part of the world, even now while talking about these verses, human beings throughout the world must have passed through one stage to another. Many babies might have been conceived just now, conceived just now, and many would have been delivered while we are talking about this verse. And many babies are within the wombs of mothers must have passed from one stage to another. So it is happening. It has been happening. It is happening, and it is going to happen with a perfect planning, a perfect design. And see a human being like this, it's been created. Quran says, can you see this, the product of accident? Can it happen just of its own? unless and until there's a designer, there's a planner, there's a Lord, there's a sustainer, there's a cherisher and nourisher, whom the perfect manager, who makes and who prepares laws, and everything goes according to his will and according to his planning. كيف تكفرون بالله? Oh man, how can you deny the existence of Allah? وكنتم أمواتا, that you were lifeless, فأحياكم, He brought you to life. ثم يميتكم, then He is causing you to die. As we see, the way people are being born, the same way we have been watching for thousands and thousands of years now, that everybody who's born dies. So this is a constant process, according to perfect time frame, about following a different timetable and time frame. The people are born, passing from babyhood, they become children, and then they reach the youthful age, the strength, then the strength starts falling down, reaching old age, and then dying, passing away. So this is a perfect consequence of events, which is again a part of planning. Imagine if people would not have died in this world, what would have been the state of ours, the world today. But this newborns and all dying, this is a constant process. Quran says, think about it. How can you deny the existence of Allah the Almighty? وَكُنْتُمْ أَمْوَاتًا. It is in fact that you were lifeless, He brought you to life. ثُمَّ يُمِيتُكُمْ, He is causing you to die according to plan, anywhere. ثُمَّ يُحْيِيكُمْ, then He shall bring you back to life. That means your death in this world is not the end of this whole process, but you will be reborn. Somebody may question, how? Because we see people being born, we see people in this world living, we see people dying, but nobody sees that people are being reborn or resurrected. Quran has an answer. He says, okay, Allah says, if you can't understand that, think about your origin. Allah will bring you back to life as He brought you into being in the first instance. As we see in many places in Quran, for example, in the last paragraph of chapter Yasin, when Quran says, أَوَلَمْ يَرَ الْإِنسَانُ أَنَّا خَلَقْنَاهُ مِنْ نُطْفَةٍ فَإِذَا هُوَ خَصِيمٌ مُبِينٌ وَضَرَبَ لَنَا مَثَلًا وَنَسِيَ خَلْقَهُ قَالَ مَنْ يُحْيِي الْعِظَامَ وَهِيَ رَمِيمٌ قُلْ يُحْيِيهَا الَّذِي أَنشَأَهَا أَوَّلَ مَرَّةٍ. Doesn't a human being ever think from which thing he has been created? A small droplet. Now, after he attains shape of a perfect man, he contests the existence of God. So, where is God? Who is God? What role God has to play here? And then contesting God's power of design or recreation or resurrection, he says, how can we be reborn? How we are going to be recreated after our death? Quran says, Kul, O Muhammad, peace be upon him, tell them, Yuhyiha alladhi ansha'aha awwala marra. Same God shall bring you back to life who created you in the first instance when you were nothing. When He could create you out of nothing, is it difficult or impossible for Him to make you again, to bring you back to life? How come? It's your imagination, or it is your limitation or your senses that you don't think. Think about it. Answer is with you. How can you deny the existence of Allah? When you were lifeless, He brought you to life. Then He caused you to die. Then He will bring you back to life. ثُمَّ إِلَيْهِ تُرْجَعُونَ. Then your final return is unto Him. That means once you are brought back, it's not when you are recreated or resurrected on the day of judgment or on the that day of doomsday or day of resurrection. You will be held, you will be brought back to Allah, and you will be held accountable for your deeds, which you might have committed in this world, whether right or wrong, and accordingly you will be rewarded or punished according to best standards of justice. Then you will be brought back to Him. We conclude here today, falling short of one verse. Inshallah, we'll try to understand that next time. Sadaqallahu al-Azim wa sadaqa Rasuluhu an-Nabiyul Kareem walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen.